Okay, this is Norma Joe back again for another reading. Okay, the last one was so much fun. I'm gonna read a second one. So, this is a story that's definitely from 9th grade. I remember it. Hey, what the fuck? Okay. We had one creative writing assignment in the year, and I was so excited that we finally got to do creative writing for once in our fucking lives that I wrote this story, and it's a horror story. I'm gonna see if it scares me now that I'm a fucking freakozoid. What else? Oh yeah, I got an A+ for it. You wanna see, look at what the teacher wrote on the back, okay? The teacher said, "This is brilliant. Please submit this to something student publication." Okay, so let's do this fucking thing. Let's see how fucking scary this shit is. Alright. It's called Platform. 05. It's got the date on it. February 13th, 2005. Cool. So little of my shit is dated. Okay, it was in the center of the tunnel. On both sides, about 20 feet away, were smaller platforms. They were smaller because they included a pair of escalators, one for up and one for down, but at the moment both pairs were identically still. In the coloring, too, they were different. The side platforms were a soft cocoa tan, while the center one was a scalding white. The color of it made it stand out, able to reflect the tiny glow stick lights that lined the walls. Besides these lights, the tunnel was pitch dark, but maybe... Wait. The tunnel was pitch dark, but maybe... Is this good right here? Okay, let me see. Maybe someone whose eyes had gotten used to a black vortex could spot a few extra dark shapes on the barely luminescent tiles. Sitting cross-legged near the left edge was a medium-sized Filipino girl. Okay, she was maybe 17. The girl was clad entirely in white, but her face was hidden. Not as if the darkness wouldn't have already done that. She covered it with her delicate hands, and a soft sniffling, crying came from her constantly. A lighter flicked on. A golden-haired German boy sat there in the dark, on a corner of the platform, far from the girl. His knees were drawn up to his chest in a reserved way, with one arm crossed over his bare shins. The other hand held the lighter, with the tiny, wriggling flame glowing in the void. His pine-green eyes were fixed on it, and the orange light reflected in them. "You better turn that off," said another boy, creeping closer to him so that he was partly visible. In the firelight, his pale white skin took on a yellowish tint from the flame. "You'll attract the thing, and you'll mess up your eyes." Gobi didn't move, but he glanced up from the orange flame to his cousin's face. They were cousins, and separated by 2 years. But that didn't keep some people from mistaking them for twins. Both were fair, with pine-green eyes and copper hair. But Argon, who was 18, and the older one, was taller and more strongly built. Gobi was 16, and much more delicate. "How am I gonna mess up my eyes when I can't see anything anyway? Just do it." Or just don't do it, I think he means. Whatever. There was a moment of still silence. The air between them was tense. In this moment, they ceased to be cousins and became a pair that... And then somebody added... I think the teacher, corrected this or something, but they added had crossed each other, and neither of them could come back down. Oh, neither of them could back down. Okay. The only sound was the girl's soft crying, but the boys didn't hear her. They were too used to her. Either that or they just ignored her. Then the moment was over. The energy was gone, and Gobi flicked off the light. "We never should have gotten off that train," Argon sighed after a few moments of silence. "We should have just stayed on, and then we'd be lost, but at least not lost here." Well, no kidding, his cousin replied. Say, what if we just jumped down and made a run for it? The words were barely out of his mouth before he heard an answer. That's suicide. Maybe not. Argon stood up and walked over to the brink of the platform, staring down into the ditch and the sparkling train rails. There's something down there, but I don't want to find out what it can do. You know that thing about the third rail? Gobi said to him with a slight smile he couldn't see. The what? You know that thing about if you touch the third rail, you'll die. Oh, I don't know. It's true, came the soft, melodic voice of the girl as she dropped her hand slightly down from her face. Her tears splashed down onto the white tile without a sound. Are you still here? Argon asked her, looking back over his shoulder. He shoved his hands into the pockets of his jeans and sauntered back over to around the center of the platform. He sat down cross-legged, resting his chin on the back of one hand. Well, there's still something down there, and I'm still not coming down from here. I'm waiting until tomorrow to try and get off. Gobi had been watching the lighter again. Where was it? But now he flicked it off and smiled in the dark. It's like that game Shark. What are you talking about? Shark, demon, whatever. You play it where there's haystacks around. The predator has to stay on the ground and the rest stay up on the hay to not get caught. Argon relaxed and gave a short laugh. Gobi laughed too, but the girl who had not moved or went on crying watched them out of the corner of her chestnut eye. Throw a coin in, Gobi said suddenly. Finding no reason not to, his cousin flashed out something from his pocket. Oh, fished out, my bad. And tossed it overhand out into the void. For a moment there was silence, then they heard the tinkling clatter of metal on cement, and the ominous echo that followed it. Though the cousins could barely see each other, they glanced in each other's direction affirmatively. But what came next they didn't expect, not even Argon. It was a loud, scrabbling noise, a threat that echoed off the walls like a spectral moan. The older of the two leapt up on his feet with a low curse, while the younger turned rigid. His green eyes went wide, trying to see desperately in the pitch dark. Hey, Gobi, maybe you shouldn't sit so close to the edge. He looked around nervously, first over one shoulder and then the other. Rapidly, he leapt up and stood at his cousin's side, closer maybe than he would if he could see. Subconsciously, the boy pulled out his lighter and held it up. He could feel the warm comfort from the little light, which barely lit up a few inches of darkness. Watching it wriggle banished some of his dangerous thoughts. The girl was crying again. Wow, I was a little sexist back then, damn. I guess I'm not gonna miss this story when I toss it out. Her silky black hair obscuring her delicate face and hands. I think it's gone, said Gobi after a few moments, but still held out the firelight. Argon nodded and they both sat down on the floor. Nope, for sure it's not gone. I think it's safe. Though, for now anyway. I think that's what it said. Yeah. Back to back they sat in the dark, and now Gobi finally flicked off his lighter and held it close. I didn't believe you when you said there was something down there, the younger cousin whispered softly. I didn't believe me either. A sudden noise made them jump and glance around. The sound came from the platform itself. But when Argon caught sight of a ghostly white apparition, he breathed a sigh of relief, knowing it was just the girl. He tried to look up into her face, but it reflected no light and was shrouded in shadow. Then she looked away quickly and continued walking around the brink of the platform. He sighed. It's just her. Just till tomorrow, Gobi reminded himself out loud. We should go to sleep or something. Can you sleep? His younger cousin gave a quick bark of nervous laughter. No. For a few moments, there was just the sounds of her feet padding softly. The boys were in the center, though they might have thought they were. And, they weren't in the center. And when she came to one corner, She was closer to Argon than before. He could hear her tiny sobs. "Why do you cry?" he asked, looking over his shoulder. He threw the question out, like a question about sports. "Oh, why do you cry?" Not in the sensitive, slightly nervous way a person asks their good friend from the first moment they see them in tears. He sniffed and wiped away a falling tear. She sniffed, I should say, and wiped away a falling teardrop. "I don't know," came her slow, melodic answer, "but I guess it's mostly because of the blackouts." "Blackouts?" said Gobi, who was now listening too. "My blackouts," she answered. "They say sometimes you never wake up. That could happen to me. I don't know, I'm just scared, I guess." "Yeah, I'm just scared all the time, my whole life. Whatever's out there scares me. But I'm already scared, so it's like I can't give it up. I can't give it anymore. It's like it's just the way it is." Both cousins stared at her, thankful for the dark. They didn't have to look her in the face. Didn't have to shift. She gave another quiet sob and turned away. Argon stared at the floor and ran a hand through his golden blonde hair. "I'm sorry." "Don't be," the girl sniffed. "I should be. I'm the coward." "I don't think you're a coward," he replied. "No, I am," she said confidently. Only a coward is so afraid of life that she can't muster up a little extra fear when a predator stalks her. Suddenly she froze. "Something's moving over here," the girl whispered, stepping back quickly. The boys looked down into the void and stood up. They saw nothing but the glittery rails, but they could feel its oppressive energy. The minute the boys were on their feet, the tiny amount of light that reflected off the tiles disappeared in a swirl of darkness as two giant, shapeless paws and head lunged up onto the platform. Gobi cursed, horrified, and both he and his cousin raced backward into the center. The girl covered her face and leapt far back out of sight. Just as suddenly as it came, the thing was gone. No one saw it jump back down into the ditch, but it wasn't there anymore. Gobi and Argon were now in the center, sides pressed together. They panted hard, their hearts beating like mad. The only things that were regular were the girls crying and the lighter flame. Gobi got little comfort from seeing it flipping in the dark. But to have it off could be worse, so he just kept it the way it was. "I hurt my arm," the younger cousin muttered a few minutes later, feeling blood dripping down his wrist. Again, with the bloody wrist. You know, this is what happens when you grow up in the emo age, okay? This is just the way things are. "How did that happen?" came Argon's voice. "I don't know." The boy's pine green eyes glanced up, still wary, and spotted the ghostly form of the girl walking slowly towards the edge. "What are you doing?" he called out in a stage whisper. "I'm gonna wait for the train," she answered quietly, then sat down cross-legged on the corner. She put her face in her hands and cried. Still shaken, the boys took a seat on the tiled floor, not daring to leave each other's touch. Gobi still had his lighter out, flickering it in the dark, orange and white flames. "Tell me honestly," he said, fixed on the fire. "Do you think we're safe now?" Argon hesitated. "I can't answer that. That means no." "That means never mind." Gobi gave up and just watched the firelight dance. He ignored his bleeding arm just as Argon ignored the cut on the back of his leg. He wouldn't say anything, least of all to his cousin. And in the darkness, with the little noises that clattered and scratched in the night, their fear grew, and with that they bled. The white doors slid open loudly. A pretty Filipino girl stood alone on the platform. Dried eyeliner ran down to her chin, staining her delicate face. She was dressed in a white skirt, shoes. "Need a lift?" called one of the passengers half-jokingly. She just said nothing and got on. As the train took her away from the platform, she tried not to think of the two cousins, the cousins that had been eaten alive by their fear. It started off biting them on the arm or leg, but before morning they had disappeared. She wasn't sure if she pitied or envied them. It was fear itself that had stalked them that night. Just how afraid could a person get? She had no more fear to feed it, so it left her alone. Okay. But as for them, she wondered, how far could they have gone before they couldn't get more scared? That morning, the girl had found the lighter on the bright white tiles. Now she took it out of her pocket and flicked it open out of curiosity, but the flame had died. Aw, man. You know what's funny? Is like, things have become what they are now, that like, if I try to show this story to somebody now, like, all that shit has different connotation. Like, they'd be like, why are you making her Filipino? Why are the boys tough to be German and pale and blonde? And like, why does, why do you have to keep calling her delicate? And like, oh, and she's pretty too? Like, so you're saying delicate equals pretty? Like, what are you, some kind of sexist and shit like that? You know, everything's fucking like it is now, you know, but back then it wasn't like that. Like I said, this has dated 2005 on it. It was just different, and yeah, it's a little blast from the past. That was fun. I don't even think it was as good as the other one that I read. I think the other one was better. But I'm glad the teacher gave me an A+. That was really nice of her. And I remember I had fun writing it. I remember thinking like, yeah, this fucking story. So yeah, good times. But as far as fear goes, man, that's still going on today. That's something that hasn't changed. If anything, people are more scared now than ever. So, yeah. I think it goes into, like, what people say about, like, privilege. Where they're like, or some shit like that. Where it's like, oh, the more hardships you've had or whatever, it, like, you're like stronger or whatever. I don't fucking know. Anyway. Yeah, that's it.